So Trigonometry spoke to conservative Dennis Prager, and they spoke about why evil triumphs and how the West has lost its moral way. So let's get straight into the video.
Very interesting question that I think both Francis and I have noticed in doing what we do, because we've tried to seek the truth. We've tried to speak out against things that we thought were wrong. And one of the things we found very quickly was the people that we considered our friends and the people
Such as, again, vague posting, always the way.
that we considered to be allies or on our side or share the same values were very angry at us for challenging things that we thought were wrong. And you
Such as,
said just now that the people who don't fight evil, I don't remember the exact
Yes.
way you said it.
Yes, the people who don't fight evil fight those who do fight evil.
Yes. And why is that?
That's a great question. I think the answer is psychologic, but I'm not certain what the answer is. If I'm fighting evil X,
again, they have to gesture vaguely because they know who they're talking about. They're talking about Palestinians, they're talking about woke, they're talking about the left. But their analysis doesn't come from any material conditions. It's just, he says psychological. So there's something wrong with their brains, their brain chemistry. But what analysis is that? Like, what leads to that brain chemistry? Like, oh, the woke mind virus. Like, where does it? I mean, there's no real analysis. It's just they're evil, they're bad people, which is so ironic because it's this essentialist thinking that leads to really dark places. It always has. It's always that we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. That's all they're really saying. That's not analysis. And I don't broadly believe in the concept of evil. I think it's such a simplifying force. And I think you have to engage with how people and why people act like they do. It's really that simple. Like, what motivates them? What incentives are there in structures under capitalism, inequality? Like, what leads people to do what they do? But they're not interested in that. They're just like, oh, they're woke.
and you're not, I'm putting you in a difficult position morally. So you have two choices. Either, you know what, I should fight X because it's evil, or deny how.
What example are they going to use? Like, oh, fight trans ideology because it's evil. It's not really, is it? Like, freedom to identify, like, what harm is being caused? Because they very rarely talk about harm. It's always like this perception of like, oh, these people are evil. And it's like, but on their side, they'll justify the behavior of Donald Trump. It's like, oh, locker room talk when he talks about sexual assault, or they'll kind of twist themselves into pretzels to justify anything that they kind of be like, oh, well, Donald Trump, he may be controversial, but X. It's like no consistency.
How evil X is, and also diminish the stature of those that are fighting X, because they have to rationalize they're not fighting.
I know I say this a lot, but this is pure psychological projection. Like, they love to, every accusation is a confession. Donald Trump does it constantly. He calls people criminals, frauds, liars, and then we know he's a criminal, a fraud, and a liar. So it's such a lack of self-introspection. And, give credit to Jordan Peterson. He will say everybody has a capability for evil. We all have that in us. But he sees it as like an essentialist thing, like a Christian, we're all fallen and we must redeem ourselves. And I don't believe that. I don't think you're born fallen. I think we're born pretty much a blank slate, and it's our experience in childhood that really informs our life chances, our moral look. Like, if we're born into a middle-class family that's stable, we're probably going to be able to make better decisions. And if we do make bad decisions, we'll have people there to bail us out, to give us opportunities, whereas poor people don't get that. If you make a bad decision as a working class 25-year-old man, that could determine the rest of your life. You're going to jail. You're, on a downward spiral. Did they talk about this? No, it's always essentialism. It always falls back to we're the good guys and you're just the bad guys.
Why did they not fight communism? So communism, well, it's not that bad. I mean, there's good intentions of equality, which is an awful intention. It's not even a good intention, but that's another issue. And
at least he's not pretending the facade it's got good intentions, but at least he just doesn't believe people are equal. These people don't believe in equality, and they won't own it either. They'll be like, if you ask okay, let's talk about that. Let's explore that idea. Are men and women equal? And they can't answer the question directly. They just can't do it, because once you go down the alley, you go to very dark places where it's ironic that you become kind of like, some people are better than others. There's a hierarchy. Men are better than women. White people are better. It goes dark very quickly. And why aren't people equal? This is an Enlightenment value that people, America, to think about America, all men are equal under the eyes of God. This guy's an American? He doesn't believe in American values. Insane when you think about it. Insane that these people think they're better. It's so ironic when they say, "Oh, lefties they're kind of elitist. They think they're better than the working class people." Whilst they're literally, yeah, we don't believe in inequality. We literally believe we are better. Because I guarantee these people don't care about working class people. Konstantin Kisin does not care about the working man. Neither does Dennis Prager. They may virtue signal, but how are they promoting workers' rights, improving the working conditions of workers, improving wages, working conditions? They'd be like, no, cut regulations, tax cuts for the wealthy. They don't care. That's the true evil. That's the true evil. They don't care about the common man or woman working 40, 50 hours a week and not even getting by.
You're fanatics. You're extremists. So I have to justify.
I feel so sorry for Francis Foster. I don't like Konstantin. I think he's a grifter. But I do feel for Francis because he's got lucky. You can't lie there. And he just sits there and he's just like, just give him a question. Make it 50. I mean, I know Konstantin doesn't believe in equality, but give him a chance to ask some questions. And maybe he'll get one question.
My moral failure. So I either have to acknowledge it's a moral failure that I didn't fight communism or whatever, or Hamas. The hatred of Israel. Israel is fighting evil. So
I'm sorry, Israel is evil in this context. They've killed way more people than Hamas. I do not apologize for Hamas. They are terrorists, but so are Israel. They've killed at least, conservative estimates, 50,000. It could be double that. That's evil. Killing, I think, 13,000 children, innocent children. Evil, in my opinion. Maybe that's woke, but those are children of God, according to Christians. But some people are worthy. But again, come back to inequality. Some lives are worth more than others. God doesn't believe that. God loves all of his children equally, apparently. But Hamas are the evil ones. Don't look at the material conditions that created Hamas. They were founded in 1987. They started out as peaceful, and then they became more radical. Why is that? Why do people get radicalized? Why do young men in the UK get radicalized in America? We have to look at the material conditions.
Vast chunk of humanity is not fighting that evil, so they must diminish Israel's moral status and claim that, oh yeah, well, Hamas is not a wonderful organization, but the poor Palestinians. What are they going to do? So this is a mirror of what I grew up with. Israel is the anti-communist of my youth, fighting the evil of our day, which is Islamic terror, as you know, in Britain. I mean, what we just saw in the Netherlands. I mean, it's just unbelievable that it's the Israel.
It's ironic when you talk about who's, evil. Especially in the context of America, where Dennis Prager is, the most group of people likely to commit terrorism is far-right, white terrorists. That's where most... It's different in Europe, but where Dennis Prager is, his guys are the biggest threat to democracy, to the American people. So, again, he has to say that, again, we need to talk about Islamic terrorism. It's a genuine threat. But is it the biggest threat facing America, where he lives? Is it the biggest threat facing the world? Climate change, inequality, Donald Trump, Putin? I mean, he won't talk about the evil. I mean, he's pro-Russia. Will he talk about the evil of Putin? Will he talk about the evil of Netanyahu? He will justify murder. That's evil. That's, again, it's all projection, all essentialism. I'm good, you're bad, lack of analysis, just not saying anything.
Israeli press, which is not hysterical, called it a pogrom against Israel fans of an Israel team that was there. So it's human nature not to fight evil.
Dennis, what do you mean by evil? Because it's a word.
What do I mean by what?
Evil.
Oh, evil? Yeah, it's so...
It's human nature not to fight evil. I don't think it is. I think we've got something in us that's an inbuilt, fairness monitor. Like, when we see something on the street unfair, someone be attacked, not always. When there's too many people, often people will delay. But if we're on our own, we have a barometer for justice. And I think 9 times out of 10, when someone sees something wrong, they will do the right thing. Not always, but I think there's a good in us. Doesn't mean that we're not flawed and we can do some of the worst things, but to have this cynical view of humanity, that human nature is not to fight evil, and then think you're the good guys, but we're fighting evil. It's I don't like it. It's just not very wise. It's not a kind of really great take.
Interesting. You may not know this, being Brits. There's a famous American story. I don't remember the Supreme Court justice, but he said something to the effect, I can't define obscenity or pornography. I don't remember which word it was.
It was pornography.
It was? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody knows what evil is when they see it. But
again, the fact he can't define it, and it is a nebulous thing. It's subjective. It's, you can apply it on a big level, a macro level, and a micro level. Yeah, every day, someone's violent. There's an evilness to that. If they are domestic violence, whatever the violence is. Also, ideological evil. If they're promoting, if they say, Palestinians, for what Trump just recently said about they're going to be dead to Palestinians. If you talk about Palestinians as, their lives aren't as valuable as Israelis, which I think they are equally valuable. That's an evil, because you're dehumanizing a people just based on geography, skin color, because they're Muslim. That's evil. So there's different ways of coming at it, but the fact that you can't just have a clear definition is just because his view's emotional. It's oh, I feel like I'm the good guy and they're evil. It's it's kind of pathetic, really.
It is unjust harm done to another. That's it. The unjust is important, because not harm. Although that's interesting that even that in our moral confusion, well, maybe the Brits were
And I'm sure he would claim that the genocide in Gaza towards the Palestinian people in reaction to Hamas's terrorist attack on the 7th of October was justified. Why? Like, is he well, he's Jewish. Do two wrongs make a right? Is this how you deal with terrorist attacks? Is that how we should do it? Like, kill more people? I don't think it is. I think we need to get to the root cause of why Hamas do what they do. And that's because they're occupied. And the occupation come up with a two-state solution.
wrong for bombing Germany. This is maybe America was wrong for dropping the bomb on Hiroshima. This is now not an idiosyncratic position. People's moral compasses has really been shattered, including some, I'm sorry to say, on the right, since you don't care where we have to be critical of, and I'm with you, that has to be acknowledged.
And one of the things I think that one of the crises that the West is facing is it's lost its moral framework. It doesn't know what evil is. It doesn't know what it means to challenge evil because it doesn't understand anymore.
Yes. Well, what the left has done.
So vague. So vague. Like moral, what do they mean? Like the morality of Donald Trump? Because Christian values, what are the foundations of Christian values? Love thy neighbor, love God, love thyself. Like a Christian love, like to understand the other person, like empathy, compassion, integrity, humility. Love thy neighbor as thyself. These are very good Christian values, and I think they're good values. But does Trump embody any of these? No, he doesn't. He's least humble, lacks complete humility, the most bravado, insecure man ever. That's where we've lost the values. It's so ironic that we can justify genocide and go, we're the good guys. We're the good guys. We can kill tens of thousands of innocent women and children, and that's justified. What moral framework? Like, I'd like them to. They never are. It's always vague posting about like the West's fallen. What moral framework are you talking about? Because if you support Trump, you have no moral framework. This is a felon, criminal, fraudster. Where is taxes? We haven't seen his taxes. There's so much on Trump that you can just go, he has no moral values. And then they support him. How can you talk about moral values when you support someone like Trump? You can't. It's pure hypocrisy. I'm sorry.
On the left is organized moral confusion, and what the left has done has
we're striving for equality, and we want people to have like living standards, universal health care. We want trans people to just be accepted. We want, racial injustices to be like redressed and give people opportunities. And we're the evil guys. We've lost our moral ways. Whereas they can vote Donald Trump in and be like, this guy is the second coming. We won't criticize him, even though all of the stuff he does is morally abhorrent, and that's the cognitive dissonance we have to deal with. And we have to deal with this and go, okay, how do you talk to these people? They literally live in an alternative reality.
Defined all of these terms. So we don't have good and evil. We have white and black, poor and rich, colonialist and colonized. Those are the distinctions.
No, that's how they project it. No, that's the thing. Like, if you take a Marxist analysis, do you look at the material conditions of the oppression people have faced? But they like to personalize it, and it's their projection. It's their view. Like, oh, I don't think they're even aware of what they're saying because that's how they view it. And yeah, there may be some extreme people who say, "Oh, white people are evil," and that is a reactionary take. That's not a leftist take. Like, to say anyone's inherently anything, that's not a leftist take. As far as I'm concerned, they're as right wing as they are. They are not leftist. So for them to go like, oh, but it's so ironic because what is he saying now is like, white people, you are literally saying the Israelis are the good guys and it's the Palestinians are the bad guys. That's literally what you're doing right now. And he's not even aware of what he's doing because, well, I don't know why. He's stupid.
Rather than good and evil. And so Israel has everything going against it. It's West versus East. It's strong versus weak. It's theoretically white versus non-white, although half of Israel is not white. And nobody likes to acknowledge that fact. And it's colonizer versus colonized. So
yeah, it does represent about like there is a lot of evil there. Netanyahu is a far right criminal. There's genocide. There's colonial rule. There's murder of children. Like, these are bad things. Like, ethno-states aren't good. The idea that a country should be just for a certain type of people. Why? Does that lead to good outcomes historically? That's what Germany wanted. It's insane.
the educated class doesn't speak in these silly traditional terms of good and evil, but rather of colonizer and colonized and so on.
And it's a great point. But I think what's tied underneath all of this is the fact that we are becoming more secular as a society.
Oh, well, yeah. Now, my life's work
Just so ironic. Again, I'll come back to Trump. Trump is secular. Obviously, he's not a Christian. He's like, when he was asked about what's his favorite part of the Bible, favorite quote, he's like, "Oh, I like them all." It's like, he's not a Christian, so you're not Christian. Like, are these guys? Is Francis Foster a Christian? Is there a channel about Christian love, forgiveness, compassion? Of course it's not. It's pure hatred. It's all hate. It's all essentialism. It's all like, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys.
has really been to teach the consequences of secularism. That's really essentially my life.
So funny, like, secularism came from the Enlightenment values, like rationality, logic, the scientific process, are the best values. They always talk about Western values. Is Christianity a Western value? It's a Middle Eastern thing. Like, it's so incoherent. You could say, yeah, we became Christian countries, but the UK is de facto not Christian. We are secular. The majority of people in the UK do not identify as religious. We are a secular country. Yes, we have the Church of England. We've got a history of Catholics, Protestantism, but we are secular. Does that define our values? Of course it doesn't. Like, the idea, like, oh, we'd be better off now if everyone was. We had 150 years of. I mean, we've got the new war now is between left and right, between values. In the same way Protestants fought Catholics for 150 years, at least in England. So,
Work, and so I within the last couple of years I learned a line. It is attributed to G.K. Chesterton, but nobody could find if he really said it. I think he did because it's a Chestertonian line, but I'm only noting this because I didn't come up with it. And I'm very adamant about citing sources. I don't want to take credit for anything that's not my idea. But it's brilliant. When people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. The proof? Only secular people say men give birth. Not all secular people say it, but only secular people. There is no religious Jew or Christian who says men give birth.
I don't think.
so silly. Just silly. We're talking about. Should I talk about this? Okay, so who even talks about this? This is often what they love to talk about, like the idea that a biological man who identifies as a woman. Like, what's wrong with this? Like, what harm is being caused that by someone who psychologically identifies with being the archetype of a woman, whatever that be, can give birth? Like, how is that undermining your values to love people, love thy neighbor? Like, how is that affecting your life? Why are you butting into other people's businesses, their private life? They're always obsessed with people's sexuality, their private life, what they do in their own home. They don't care about freedom. Like, they always talk about, oh, freedom, freedom. What about the freedom to people to do whatever they want as long as they're not harming people? Who is being harmed? I guarantee they would never be able to give any evidence for the harm being caused here by someone saying that they identify as a different gender they were born as. What harm is being caused? It's pathetic. That's all they have. Like, oh, we're the good guys and you're evil because you like freedom.
I think the Muslims would say it either, Dennis, to be fair.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I agree, but I'm talking within the Judeo-Christian
Okay,
West.
okay.
Yeah, of course, that's correct, but that would only affirm my point.
Yeah.
They're religious,
Yeah.
yes. So the here, I'll give another.
That's the strongest argument he's got against secularism. I'm sorry, you can't argue against secularism. It's like evidence, rationality, scientific. Like, that's the best we've got. It's flawed. It's biased. Certain things get funded, certain things don't. It's the best we've got. Like, we can't run society based on religion. It's not worked. It's created a lot of genocide historically. There's been a lot of war throughout Europe, throughout the Middle East. It's not working. We need something different, and it needs to be based in rationality.
Another example. So I gave you the men give birth. So why is the West not reproducing itself? People are not making babies, correct? In virtually every Western country.
That's complex. There's different reasons. Developing countries, at a certain point, it kind of stagnates because women become more educated, become more free. He probably doesn't like that. And it just takes... Also, people can't afford to in America and the UK. That's probably one of the key reasons that it's more expensive now to have a child, to buy a house, career. There's so many obstacles for young people. But does he care about that? He doesn't care about... He doesn't believe in equality. So why would he care about economic equality? They don't care about solving this problem at all, because that would mean wage increases, taxing the wealthy more, infrastructure, more public spending, actually putting money into people's pockets and communities. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want people to kind of go like, actually, yeah, how do we solve this? It's like, no, they just want to bash on Muslims or trans people. It's like, it's never actually coming up with solutions to economic or demographic problems.
They say it's affluence. It's not true.
It is.
It's secularism. Religious affluent people have a lot of children, and poor religious and affluent religious people have children. If you meet a family with 5 children in the United States,
no, it is affluence. I guarantee you give your average working class or middle class, if they've got the money, they can afford it, they've got a big house, they feel comfortable, they'll have children. It's got nothing to do with religion at all. That's such a... like, how do you even argue with that? Because it's so anti-scientific. Ironically, religion is anti-empiric. It's based on belief, not evidence. So why would he look at the evidence and go, oh yeah, the evidence says it is affluence, and how do we do that? Well, we make people... we make people able to afford children. I mean, a lot of people can't. He won't talk about that.
You will correctly assume they're either Mormon, Catholic, evangelical, or Orthodox Jew. It is inconceivable that there would be a secular family having 5 or more children, or even 4 or more children. So people need to acknowledge, I have never bothered arguing, and I brought a lot of people to take God and the Bible seriously, many, many people. I'm very happy about that. But I've never done it by arguing for God's existence. All of my arguments are for God's necessity.
And what I
But again, you can't really argue people into religion. It's very difficult. Like, very few people will convert. It's usually have to be born into it and indoctrinated it into it. Like, that's why they have lots of children, because they want to indoctrinate those children and proliferate the religion. But you can't argue someone into religion because it's a belief-based thing. It's like not based on, you have to like be kind of tricked into it. I'm sorry, you do. Like, there's a reason why most people who become atheist actually read the Bible. They read it and go, "Oh, this is nonsense. I'm out," because this is literal. If you actually read the Bible, you will know that, okay, God didn't write this.
are those arguments.
As Dostoevsky put it in Brothers Karamazov, where there is no God, all is permitted. Moral chaos must flow, because if God is
Such a fallacy. It's just like Dostoevsky had some points about, but to say that science doesn't have an ethical side, there isn't. There's a branch of science that talks about the ethics of science, and we need that in politics. We need ethics in politics. Donald Trump is not an ethical person. He's kind of soiled the political environment across the planet where people like him now are acceptable. Not that long ago, it wasn't acceptable to say the stuff that Trump says and act like he does. Like, a scintilla, 1% of what Donald Trump's done in his life, most people would not. They'd be out of their job. They would never be able to run for president, not even a senator. But Trump has kind of defied that because he's so shameless. He has no shame. Like, he can just do anything he wants, and famously, people will just vote for him. Like, he could kill someone on Fifth Avenue. He would not lose a vote. It's because, again, people just... I think people do want religion, but because they don't want to think for themselves. And that's a dangerous precedent, because religion, I'm sorry, is anti-intellectual. You're deferring your morals onto something else.
not the source of do not murder, murder is not wrong. You can think it's wrong, you can feel it's wrong. Society may opine that it is wrong. Morality is subjective unless there is a divine source for it. You can be an atheist and acknowledge that. By the way, atheist philosophers till the very recent past did all acknowledge that. If there is no God, morality is subjective. The good and evil, objective.
But really, he claims it's subjective. So he believes that it's evil when an Israeli IDF soldier kills a Palestinian child. That's evil. Like, it is subjective. People literally read the Bible in different ways. That's why there's so many branches of Christianity. That it is subjective. The Bible has been interpreted in... It is subjective. There's not objective morality at all. Like, read any philosophy. It's a very deeply subjective thing. Like, oh my God, he's like...
exist only if there is God who is the source of moral values.
That's why we've become so uncomfortable with the word evil.
Right.
That's why I think, and I say this as someone who is agnostic, and Francis is too, but I think it's obvious that...
I don't think we've become uncomfortable with the notion of evil. I just think is it that helpful? Is it like you just say someone's evil and then that's the end of the conversation? You don't... It's very convenient for them to use that word because it means that you don't analyze the economic, historical, cultural, geographical context that leads to America, Israel, Palestine. It's very convenient because then it's like you don't have to think then. Like religion. There's evil, there's good, and there's evil. And that's a binary. Whereas in reality, religion has caused some of the most evil things on the planet and also some of the best things about us. The notion of Christian love, compassion, empathy, love thy neighbor.
Evil implies some kind of authority to opine on that issue, to say this is 100% undeniably wrong. And to say that as a human being sounds too arrogant, because who am I to judge?
Right.
You need something from above that
Yeah.
that deigns this into truth, right?
Yeah, even do not murder. You know, we think, oh, well, of course, it's obvious murder is wrong. It's not obvious at all.
Not at all.
It's context dependent, though. Like, murder broadly is wrong. But if it's in self-defense, is that wrong? It's so context, like, it's such a simple, like, murder's wrong. Yeah, murder's wrong. Don't kill people. But if someone's trying to kill you, is it justified? Maybe, maybe not. I think it may be in that instance. So it's not like, oh, like God says murder's wrong. Like the categorical imperative. Lying is always bad. Not always. If it saves a life, lying is good. It's just so simplistic, really.
You know, take rape. War liberates men to do what they want to do. Not all soldiers do this, but staggering numbers in all of war's history did it. Because there were no sanctions. But if you believe...
It's so ironic talking about IDF Israelis that have been known to rape their victims, Palestinians. So, on that depressing note, I'll end it there. Hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.